I want to turn now to a historian, Mark Updegrove, who joins us now. Mark, I want to talk to you just about the historical significance, the weight of this moment. We were already heading into this pivotal election year where you had this rematch between President Biden and former President Donald Trump. But now, with just over 100 days to go until the election, President Biden making this decision to exit the race.
Yeah, another reflection of the unprecedented events that we see rolling out this year, Rachel. And I think it reminds me of 1968, the last time we had an incumbent president who was eligible for re-election opt not to seek or accept his party's nomination. That was Lyndon Johnson in 1968. But there are so many other parallels there as well. Political violence. That year we saw the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy. We've seen, of course, this year the assassination attempt on President Trump's life. We saw divisions and discord and volatility in 1968. We're seeing that again this year, but truly another reflection of the unprecedented times in which we live, Rachel.
Mark, I want to ask you how history is going to look back on this debate. There was so much to be said about this debate happening so early in a presidential election cycle. Just as Americans were sort of kicking off their summers, they were tuning into this debate. Then this is when you had President Biden. He really struggled to answer critical questions, even on issues that were at the core, at the center of his campaign, including abortion rights. And then after that, we started to hear from the panic from Democrats almost immediately as the president got off of that debate stage. How will history look back on that moment in history as a turning point in American politics?
Well, I think you said it, Rachel. It was the turning point for Joe Biden. It was determinative. As much as he wouldn't want it to be, that is how voters looked at Joe Biden. And there were many questions before that debate about his acuity, about the old age affecting his performance as president, and really that debate performance reinforced it. But I think Joe Biden made the right decision for history, for his country, for his legacy. He has talked many times about the central cause of his presidency being the preservation and the strengthening of democracy. We saw that in his statement earlier today. The last of the accomplishments that he enumerated in his statement was, we've protected and preserved our democracy. That will be how we remember Joe Biden, partly because he staved off the challenge by President Trump in 2020. He jeopardized that pillar of his legacy by continuing to be in the race, Rachel. So in giving this off to another candidate, there's a better chance of democracy in the eyes of Joe Biden being preserved and strengthened with another candidate going forward.
Mark, one more question I want to ask you, because when I talk to those who are close to the president, one word they mention is legacy. And so much of the push from Democrats on Capitol Hill to get him to step aside in this moment at this time was to preserve his legacy. Obviously, not just his time serving as president of the United States in the White House. President Biden also spent 36 years in the Senate. He obviously was also former President Barack Obama's vice president. I think there are two sides to this coin, of course, because now you have the president stepping aside. That does allow him to pass the torch in this way. But this is also happening so close to the election. What will the impact of this decision at this time be on his legacy?
It's so hard to say, but I think that history will reflect that Joe Biden has done the right thing for his country and for his party. He got into this race after Charlottesville, after I think President Trump refused to condemn the actions of those who were clearly racist and anti-Semitic. And he wanted to ensure that our democracy was preserved. He's done an admirable job of doing this, returning us to democratic norms and traditions, reviving NATO around the liberation of Ukraine from Russian invasion. Those are extraordinarily important aspects of Joe Biden's legacy. But again, Rachel, he would put that in jeopardy if he were to remain in the race, given the poll numbers right now and how voters and members of his party are seeing Joe Biden in this moment. The candidate he was is not the candidate he is in this moment. So I think history will reflect the fact that Joe Biden stepped in, staved off a challenge from Donald Trump in 2020, preserved us to democratic norms, but now the torch is being passed to someone else who's in a better position, rather, to stave off another threat from Donald Trump to our democracy, Rachel.
Historian Mark Updegrove, thank you so much.